Hi, I'm James Bernard from Propellerhead Software. Today I'm going to show you how to get started using Reason version 4, whether you have the full version or the demo version. After you've installed the demo, launch the application and you'll be brought up with a setup wizard. Click on the Next button and now you can select your audio output or audio interface. If you're using an external interface, select it here. If you're using a PC, I suggest that you use ASIO drivers for the best audio performance. Click on the Next button, and it will now scan to see if you have any external USB controller surfaces, like this Cord keyboard that I have here. Once it finds the surface, click on the Use button, and you should be ready to go. Now that you've opened the application, you'll see that on the screen it's loaded up the factory demo song. So looking at the screen, the top area of the screen here is the rack, which is what contains all of your devices, things like your synthesizers, your mixer, and effects. Down here is the sequencer section. This is where you would record your performances from your MIDI keyboard. Down here at the bottom is the transport. If you want to hear the demo song, just press this button here, play. But you can do that on your own. What we're going to do is we're going to actually go through the process of creating a song from scratch. If you look here on the left-hand side down in the sequencer section, if you want to play a sound, click on it here by choosing the sound itself or the device itself, and that will allow you to play the sound on the keyboard. So there we have a Rhodes. If I wanted to play the bass sound, I can just scroll down here and find the bass sound. And you can see that the sound has changed and the focus of the keyboard has changed. So let's go through the process now of creating a song from scratch. We'll close the demo song, go to our File menu, and open up a new song. You can see that Reason has created this empty song that contains a mixer and the sequencer section down below. To start the song off, I'm going to look over here on the right-hand side in the tool window, and you can see a list of the devices that Reason has available here. I'm going to use this Dr. Rex loop player to give me some drums to start the song off. So when I double-click on it, you'll see that it's added to the rack. Over here on the left is where you would select what sound or patch, or in this case, what loop is going to be loaded into the Dr. Rex loop player. I'll click on this folder, and you'll see now the patch browser comes up. On the left-hand side in Locations, you can select sounds from the factory sound bank. I've already got some sounds that I'm going to choose here, so I'm going to go into my favorite section, and I've already got a loop that's ready for me to use. When I click on it and hit OK, the loop gets loaded into the Dr. Rex device. If I want to take that loop and put it into my sequence, I can just push this 2-track button right here, and you can see down below that the notes to play the loop have already been added to the song. I want to make this song that I'm creating just be an 8-bar loop so I can build it in sections. So down here on the transport, we're going to turn the loop on. Now down on the transport again, when we press play, you can hear that loop being played back. I want to change the tempo, so down here we can select the tempo and we'll just go down a bit so it's a little bit more of a slower vibe. The next thing I want to do is add a part to this, and I think a bass part would be a good place to start. I'm going to use the Thor Polysonic Synthesizer. Double click on it and it will load in. I'm going to select the sound. Again, you can choose these from either the factory sound bank, or in my case, I've got some that are preset. And when they play the keys on the keyboard, I've got the sound of that device being triggered. So I want to record a bass part to go along with these drums that are here. I'm going to set up on the bottom transport section a pre-count with the click on so that I can hear a 1-bar lead in and get myself ready to play my bass part. Again, down here on the transport, we can click the red record button and that will start the sequencer going. All right, so I've got my part there. Now, let's say that what I played wasn't really exactly perfect. I could quantize my performance and make it feel a little bit better in the groove. And that's done up here on the right-hand side on the tool window. If we click on the Tools tab, The first selection there is quantize, and I can set the note value and the percentage of quantization. I'm actually pretty happy with what I did there, but if I did want to quantize, you would select the clip that's been recorded, go up here, and push the apply button. Let's add some more parts to this. We'll go to our Devices tab, and I'm going to add another Thor. And this time I want to add some sort of an accompaniment to the bass part. I'll select the sound. And for this part, I think I'm going to use one of the new devices, which is the arpeggiator. Now what an arpeggiator does is it allows you to input the chord on the keyboard, and it will take the notes from the chord and start to play an arpeggio or a pattern. And you can select the pattern, either going in an ascending or down or up and down. And you can hear it. If I start to play the arpeggiator now, you can hear that it's just cycling through the notes that I've played on the keyboard. You can also program a pattern on the arpeggiator, which would allow you to select exactly where the notes that you're playing are going to hit. So if I click on the pattern, you can see here you have step keys, and I'm going to just kind of randomly choose some. And if you listen to it, it's got a little bit more of a feel, a different feel to it. So let's start this sequence again. All right, that's going to work. I'm just going to hit record while this is playing. All right, so again, we'll take what we've recorded there. I'm going to take the clip. If you notice that the clip has a couple of arrows at the beginning and the end, I can adjust the beginning of the clip so that it starts right on the bar I want. And then it's just as simple as dragging that clip over and using the copy and paste functions on your computer keyboard, which is usually on the Apple C and Apple V, or Control C and Control V on a PC. So now we've got our bass, our drums, and a little arpeggio part going on. I think at this point I can probably turn off the click. All right, so next thing I want to do is let's add another part. I think a lead part would sound good here. And for this I'm going to use the subtractor analog synthesizer. Again, over here in our tool window, we just double click on the device and it will load it in. And we can scroll through some patches, and I've already got one here that's going to work for this song. We'll just hit play and listen to it. All right, we'll just record this. All right, and that one kind of was a little off on my timing, so I think I will quantize that. And we'll take that clip and move it to where we want, copy and paste it, and hit play on the transport. The next step is that you might want to do some things to add some texture to the mix. So I might want to add some effects, things like maybe some compression or maybe some reverb to kind of sweeten the mix a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to add some compression to this drum part, and I'm going to solo that out on the mixer up here. So if you look, here's the mixer. I'm going to click on this S, which is the solo button, so I can just hear the drums. Again, over in our tool window, I'm going to scroll down and get to this M-class compressor. Now if I click on the device in the rack and then I double click on the compressor, you can see that it adds it right underneath the device. And if I flip the rack around by pushing the tab button, you can see the routing has already been set for me. Out of the device, into the compressor. This is using a compressor in what's called an insert effect, which means that the device gets the effect applied directly after the output. So let's set the threshold a little lower. We'll give some compression to these drums. Give it a nice slow attack. And I think I might want to compress that bass as well. So let's go to the bass, add our compressor. We'll adjust some settings here to give it a sound that I'm looking for. Let's work with our mix a little, bring the volume of some of these channels down. All right, stop the song. The next type of an effect that I want to create here would be what's called a send effect. And this is going to mean that instead of a device directly going into the effect, we're going to apply some effect on top of the original signal. The way you create a send effect is we're going to click on the mixer and select one of our effects here on our device list. So I'm going to use the RV7000 Advanced Reverb. We'll double click on that, and you can see it places that reverb directly under the mixer. And again, if I flip the rack around, what it's done is it's taken the auxiliary output 1 send into the effect and then out of the effect back into a return. To hear the effect on any of the devices, when you look at the top of the mixer here, these are your aux sends. All you have to do is turn up the level of the aux send 1 on any channel that you want to apply the effect to. I'm going to choose a room, and I think we'll apply a little bit of room to both the drums and to that lead sound. So on the drums, I'm going to go up to aux 1, turn up that send a bit, and same for the lead. So at this point, all that's left to do is work on the arrangement, doing things like creating an intro, a verse, or chorus, sort of get the flow of the song. And to work on the arrangement, what I'm going to do is take the bottom sequencer window, which is attached to the rack, and I'm going to detach it and put it in its own window. And the way that you do that is up here on the upper right-hand side of the rack, we click on this top right-hand button. So you can see here that the sequencer window is broken out into its own separate window. So let's work with the arrangement. Now, when I want to work with the arrangement, I want to take the parts that have been recorded and sort of shift their locations around a bit. So for this, I'm going to start off with 2 bars of drums, then we'll bring in the arpeggio, and then we'll bring in everything. So to do that, there's a couple of ways that you can work with the clips that have been recorded. You can either shift their start points using the arrow here at the beginning, or you can use the razor tool here at the top. I'm going to use the razor tool on this arpeggio part. We're going to cut that, and then we're going to delete that first 2-bar section. And so what we'll have now is the drums will start, the arpeggio will come in, and then everything's going to come in. We'll start this down here by pressing play on the transport. So I've got a little basic structure here of a song. Now I'd probably work on this some more to get things like my verses and my chorus all laid out. So at this point, if you're happy with the arrangement, all that's left to do would be to save your file, which is disabled on the demo version, or you can export the song as an audio file. Also, that's disabled on the demo as well. And that's done right here on the File menu. You can save it or use the Export Song as an audio file. All right, we're just about done here. So what we've covered is I've shown you how to start from scratch in creating your own song, selecting sounds, recording your MIDI performances, adding effects, working with the mix and the arrangement, and then taking your song that you've created and saving your file or exporting it as an audio file. I want to thanks for spending your time with me today, and I hope that what I've shown you can get you started on making your own music in Reason version 4.